Good morning, everyone. My name is Joel Stevens, and going to have a short update for us today. Lots going on in the world. We just had Trump give his first address to Congress last night, and I'm sure we all have our thoughts on how that went. What else has been going on? I've been updating our Curate website pretty heavily the last day or so. So there's lots of fresh content on there, and hopefully that'll be a regular occurrence. And finally sorted out like all our podcast stuff. Again, we're on Stitcher, we're on iTunes. You can find us all on our website with all the links there to whatever respective RSS feed you'd like to use. Hope everyone's doing well out there today. Today we are going to talk about protest. And this is something I've been holding back. There's been a lot of protest going on in the world. As we all know, whether it's the Women's March, the protests in the streets after the election, protest in the Arab Spring. This has been going on through social media, through Twitter. Today, I want to talk on this topic because it's something it's near and dear to my heart, and that is the subject of prayer as protest. And the question I have for us is, how many of us out there have seen a documentary about something like war, tragedy? Say you saw The Inconvenient Truth years ago. I saw Invisible Children. Not sure if anyone still remembers them, but they were a great organization, and they started with a documentary about child slaves in Uganda. And that really propelled me. And one thing about that film that I loved was at the very end, it said, "What's the first thing you can do?" And their one dot said, "Pray." And it struck me that even they in the film acknowledged that there's something going on in that type of situation with child slavery and war, that there are certain things that only prayer can do. And the question that I propose to all of us, myself included, is how important is prayer in our pursuit of justice? And like I said, there's been many protests in the streets, whether it's women's rights, you have the gay and lesbian rights, you have people saying we're right to life, we're pro-life, we want the rights of the child. In the age of Brexit and Donald Trump, it's also an age of protest. And I would argue that this began with the Arab Spring. Even Time magazine put the protester on the front of their issue that year through the means of Twitter. Protest has become easier, more accessible. And the thing about today is that because of social media, there's actually more issues we're all aware of. Transgender rights, whose bathroom is going to say what, and what bathroom are we going to walk into. The realities of today, there's 65 million refugees, displaced individuals, families all around the world. There's hunger, famine just announced again in Sudan and Africa. There's walls being built, not just around countries, but also around families, around hearts. And this could be between the U.S. and Mexico, as we heard again last night in the speech, but also around, maybe there's someone who has an LGBTQ child in their family, and the family choose to ostracize them. And there's all these things happening that, and if I've seen anything coming from the last 12 months of life on this planet, it's that there's far more racism, prejudice, sexism in our world than I think any of us previously thought. And this tension has led to people taking to the streets. And by the tens of thousands, they're marching, they're making their signs, they're starting campaigns, they're trying to create movements, all in a protest and a reaction in one direction or another, depending on which side you're on, in a sense of, this is wrong and I'm going to the streets to make this right. And I'm here to say, and I want to invite us today, that protest, whatever we feel in our hearts, that protest needs to start on our knees, and it needs to start on our faces at the feet of Jesus. For me, prayer is protest, and prayer is this declaration to the heavens that something is wrong and something needs to be made right. And that's where, for me, Jesus comes in as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And there are two prayers found in Scripture that I live firm when viewing this perspective. And the first is in the life of Daniel, and secondly in the life of Jesus. Case in point, I'm going to just read from Daniel 10. we read how Daniel was led into a 21-day season of fasting and prayer, and when he finished, an angel appeared to him stating that he, the angel, had been in a battle, or it says detained, with the prince of Persia, and that Michael, the archangel, came to help him because of Daniel's fasting and intercession. And it's one of those things that astounds me that that there is this war going on that somehow Daniel is involved in, that there's an actual prince, a principality over the area of Persia on the earth. And Daniel's 21 days have caused this awareness that there's an angel that's detained, and Michael, the archangel, has to come and rescue the detained angel out of the hands of this prince or principality over Persia. And I love that Daniel, just like you or I, that his prayers can be heard. And today is Wednesday. It's Ash Wednesday. It's the day where we set aside part of our life to focus, to recenter ourselves on the cross. And I love that the prayers of one man were able to shake the heavens, and they were raised up to the angels themselves, and God sent angels into flight based on a man's prayer. And then I lost a sheet here, but let me see if I can pull it up, make it fast. Then you have the life of Jesus, and in Jesus' own words, let's get this up here. My page disappeared. So, in the life of Jesus, there is this reality that he lived in that we are also living in. There's war, there's poverty, there's division, there's brokenness, and all of these things are rooted in this unseen reality of darkness, and we are called to bring light to this situation. Whether it's prayer, fasting, intercession, worship, they're all tools of the kingdom of God, that we would partner with heaven to bring and usher in the righteousness and justice here on earth. And we must understand that these things are just as important, the prayer, the fasting, the intercession, if not more important than any strategy or plan that I could come up with. And in the very least, prayer and intercession should be the first thing we do. And by that, I'm going to look to Jesus now, because by allowing our protests to be heard before God, it creates something that it is impossible, even with 1,000 people in the streets, millions in the streets. If those hearts and prayers and words, don't believe me, I do think God hears them, but something happens where if I'm able to just get quiet and alone with the one I'm in relationship with, then all of a sudden he's like, let me hear your heart. What pains you today? What groans you? And to me, that's where Jesus in the book of Matthew, where he taught us to pray, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And it's my personal belief that Jesus was teaching us how to live out exactly what Daniel was living through. That was demonstrated in Daniel's life, where he was by himself. Not that it means we always have to be by ourselves, but he was fasting and praying, and things happened on behalf of what was being sent into heaven, what was being heard by heaven. And prayer in this, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, the prayer of Jesus does something else. And I think it's important to realize that Jesus' prayer in Matthew acknowledges that there are things on the earth that are broken. It acknowledges that as followers of Jesus, we will be facing these terrible things. But lastly, these instructions by Jesus acknowledge this. I wrote a list here. Prayers have power. Our prayers send out angels on our behalf, and our prayers cause disruption in the heavens, and our prayers hold back demonic strongholds, and our prayers can bring the God's kingdom of justice and righteousness on the earth. And again, I think Daniel is living it out, and Jesus then comes and says, it's easy. You say, my kingdom come, my will be done. Obviously I'm saying Jesus saying that, we say to God, like, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, that what is wrong be made right. And James Missner of the nonprofit World Relief once said of Jesus' prayer, to quote him here, God, things here are not right. They are not of you. Please let there no longer be a discrepancy between what you want of your kingdom to look like and what the current realities are. And so, regardless of your political views today, we must always see prayer as our placement on the front line of a spiritual battle. I've said it before, I'll say it again. We fight against, not against principalities, or not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and rulers of a dark age. And you could argue, are we in a dark age? Are we in an age of enlightenment? A new renaissance, as I even like to say. But whatever side you're on, every day we are actually in a battle in a spiritual reality more real than this flesh and blood that I walk in. And I wrote this down, that if I want more security for my family and for my country, then I must first pray that my security come from God, not from a border wall, not from an increased defense budget. But on the flip side, if I want my government to turn my country to a home for a stranger and displaced refugees, is my home open? Is my prayer closet open, that I would be on my knees and saying, God, shift something in the heavens that would pave a way for those who are displaced, those who are strangers, those who are our neighbors from another country abroad, that they might have a place to call home. And I'm not saying that we stay at home and we never go to the streets to protest, but what I am saying is that I cannot hit the streets at the expense of missing out on my time with Jesus at his feet in prayer and intercession. That if I'm replacing that by going and just demonstrating out on the streets without hitting my prayer closet or putting my face on the floor or just praising God, singing to God in my car, in the shower, whatever makes you come alive in those moments, we have to have that fullness of it all, guys. Like, not just going and crying out to the government in the streets without crying out to God first. And Jesus alone gave us the prayer, and he alone carries the solution into all situations. And so I want to leave us with this benediction, just keeping it short today. I still got my coffee because it is 8 a.m. This is from 2 Chronicles 20:15, and it says, "Thus saith the Lord unto you, be not afraid or dismayed by reason of this great multitude, for the battle is not yours, but it is God's." And so hold on to that today, guys, and let us be encouraged that the battles that we wage are not against Trump. They're not against the media. The battles we wage are his, because his heart is for the stranger, it's for the orphan, it's for the widow. And we need to be willing and to give ourselves over to Jesus, to him alone, in friendship and intimacy. And how does this start? With prayer and within our quiet moments with him. Prayer needs to be our first act of protest to our call to do justice in our world. As we move in on this, we discover what justice and righteousness truly mean, and how, as people of faith, the two are inseparable in our quest to bring about the restoration of all things. So I leave that with you guys today, that we are charged with bringing the restoration of all things. It's a full circle. It's us on our knees. It's us being vocal. It's not us being silent, but it's about us always in relationship with the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, who wants to interact with you today, who wants to bring peace to the things that torment you, to bring peace to the fears that trouble you, to the things that keep you up at night, to the things that steal and rob and try to kill your joy, your happiness, your bank account. Whatever it is, God is here today to say, the battle is not yours, it is mine. So peace be with you. I love you guys. Thanks for following. This is the 4th week, and here's to next week. Stay on curate.cc for all future updates, from arts to entertainment to culture to music to politics, of course. I love you. Talk to you soon. Bye, guys.